Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another legal breaking reporting video analysis update for the morning of Saturday, December 6, 2025. Let's get into our morning reporting this morning for Saturday, December 6, 2025.
This message comes from Vital Farms, who works with small American farms to bring you pasture-raised eggs. Click the play button to hear from pasture-raised egg farmer Tanner Pace, who shares the sights and sounds he and his hens experience on the rolling hills of his family farm in southern Missouri.
The Trump administration's campaign to overturn how children get vaccinated against infectious diseases took a major step forward yesterday. A powerful federal advisory committee recommended dropping long-standing guidance that all babies get vaccinated against hepatitis B at birth. NPR health correspondent Rob Stein joins us now. Hey, Rob.
Hey there, Ader.
Really quick, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't recommend doing what this government tells and recommends you to do, simply because it is completely dangerous and unethical for a government to recommend not getting your child vaccinated, or let alone any American vaccinated. Those that think otherwise are a complete disgrace to the human kind and human nature. Let's get back into the reporting.
Start with an explanation of what exactly happened yesterday.
Sure. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices voted to abandon one of the nation's most effective vaccination policies, a recommendation that all children get vaccinated against hepatitis B within the first 24 hours of life. This has been U.S. policy for more than 30 years and is responsible for a dramatic plunge in hepatitis B infections in this country. That's protected countless babies from getting a chronic liver infection that can lead to liver failure, liver cancer, and premature death.
I can't help but ask why. Why would the CDC committee endorse this?
Well, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has long campaigned against vaccines, essentially stacked this committee with like-minded members, and many of them question whether vaccinating children against hepatitis B when they are so young is really necessary. They also question whether it's safe to give newborn babies this shot so early in life. Here's how new committee member Retzef Levy, a professor of operations management at MIT, put it.
You would never agree to fly on a plane that the aircraft vendor tells you that it's safe. Apply the same level of scrutiny to the safety of your child as much as you will apply to the safety of a plane. And I don't believe that we currently do that.
The committee
Exactly. I very much agree with him. Let alone, ladies and gentlemen, I was vaccinated for hepatitis B and hepatitis C when I was little, and when I was first born. And yet again, I'm perfectly fine. I've never had cancer. I've never had kidney failure. I've never had liver failure. I've never had none of that. So I'm not gonna do what this government recommends. I'm sorry, but I'm not willing to put my health in danger over this Republican government, even especially because a known drug addict is the Secretary of Health.
recommended that only babies born to mothers who test positive for the virus or whose status is unknown routinely get vaccinated at birth. Those who test negative should talk to their doctor.
And what's been been the reaction to this change?
Most public health experts are horrified, frankly. They say there's overwhelming evidence that the vaccine is safe for newborns and babies can catch the virus even if their mothers aren't infected. Here's Dr. Joseph Hiblin, another member of the committee who voted against the change.
The hepatitis B vaccine program is one of the world's greatest achievements in medical health and the protection of children. And for that reason, we have a very high bar before we make any changes to the current program.
And he and other members are worried that other changes may be in the works.
So let's talk about that. This isn't the first change this administration has made in vaccine policies. Remind us what else has happened and what may be coming.
Yeah, the Trump administration has already made it harder for many people to get the COVID-19 vaccines, made it more complicated to vaccinate babies against chickenpox, and changed the CDC stance on a possible link between vaccines and autism, even though that's long been debunked. The CDC committee is now scrutinizing the entire childhood vaccine schedule, which for decades has protected children against more than a dozen dangerous diseases, including measles, mumps, tetanus, and, polio. Here's Dr. Rochelle Walensky, a former CDC director.
We rely on an infrastructure of vaccines not only to protect ourselves and our children, but to protect our communities and one another. Today's meeting was just another one of those chisels in the infrastructure that we are really, really relying on to keep our children, ourselves, and our communities safe.
And the committee laid the groundwork during the meeting to consider other controversial changes in U.S. vaccine policies in the future.
That's NPR's health correspondent, Rob Stein. Rob, thank you.
You bet, Hader.
Pete Hegseth is under scrutiny this week over two different strikes. One against alleged drug traffickers in the Caribbean, the other against Houthi militants in Yemen, what's become known as Signalgate. NPR's senior contributor, Elving, joins us now. Hey, Ron.
Hey, good to be with you, Hader.
So, Ron, on the alleged drug boats, members of Congress saw video of the September 2nd strike, and Republicans and Democrats came away with very different versions of what they saw when two survivors were killed. How do you make sense of that?
It takes some effort to make any sense of it at all. There's a lot we don't know about these boats, but let us say that this hit on September 2nd was part of the U.S. war on drugs. If so, then these men in question might qualify as enemy combatants left wounded on the battlefield, which puts us in war crime territory. Yet the first Republican senator emerging from that closed-door hearing on Thursday was Tom Cotton of Arkansas, himself a veteran of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he said, quote, "We killed them and we were right to kill them." He said both strikes on the boat were, quote, "righteous," and that reports in the media to the contrary were a lie and defamatory. So there is a broad disagreement about the facts that goes well beyond grudging loyalty to Hegseth. It may even go beyond loyalty to Trump himself. And we see something similar in regard to the so-called Signalgate. The Defense Department's own Inspector General this week released a report saying that by discussing the mission details of that strike over an insecure chat app, Hegseth endangered the mission and the lives of American service members. The White House called the same Inspector General report, quote, "a total exoneration," unquote. So here again we see an us versus them mentality that overrides all other considerations.
Yeah, and speaking of Signal, we should mention NPR's CEO, Catherine Marr, also chairs the board of the Signal Foundation. Its subsidiary makes the messaging app. But let's talk about the Supreme Court. This week, justices weighed in on the gerrymandered voting maps in Texas. They sided with Republicans. This could mean 5 more GOP seats in Congress next year. Where do things stand nationally in this redistricting arms race?
Well, there are still some states fighting the map wars, including Missouri and Indiana. And more states may get drawn into the fray by court rulings, so the national outcome is unclear. The Texas map could add 5 Republican seats, but that's not guaranteed. Might be only 3. And meanwhile, the gerrymanders adopted in retaliation to Texas by Democrats in California and Virginia could yield more. In the long run, it could be a wash or a marginal gain for the GOP, and 2 or 3 seats may not matter much come next November. Right now, polls are indicating Democrats are in for a strong showing in those midterm elections in November coming. History tells us presidents have lost seats in the midterms 9 times out of 10 since World War II. And the lower a president's public approval, the more seats are lost. And right now, Trump's at 36% in the Gallup poll, lower than any president that they have measured at Gallup other than Richard Nixon.
So, Ron, the Supreme Court also announced yesterday it will hear another case over President Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship. It seems the court has shown a lot of deference to the president so far this term. Do you think that's going to hold true here?
Birthright citizenship goes back to the 14th Amendment in the aftermath of the Civil War. There's always been some debate over whether it applied only to the formerly enslaved or to new arrivals in the country who have babies here. Should those babies automatically become citizens even if their parents aren't? The long-standing answer has been yes. But there has also been a body of opinion opposed to that. We had anti-immigration surges in the mid-1800s and in the 1920s. And Trump's broad-scale assault on immigration has in effect closed the southern border and unleashed aggressive deportation efforts. But this birthright citizenship case, seeking to change the way we have long understood the Constitution, would be his biggest trophy yet.
That's NPR's Ron Elving. Ron, thank you.
This message comes from Dignity Memorial and Memphis Funeral Home, one of their nationwide providers. When Bill Muir's wife Barbara passed away earlier this year, he knew he wanted a celebration of life that captured everything that made her unique. Click the play button to hear Bill's conversation with funeral director Mike Perry and learn about the details in her celebration that brought joy to her family and friends.
World Cup is fast approaching, and we now know which teams will play each other in the first round. The draw for the group stage was announced yesterday at a ceremony in Washington. The tournament will take place next summer in the US, Canada, and here in Mexico, where I'm based. NPR's Becky Sullivan has more.
The U.S. men's national team has been on a bit of a hot streak this fall. The Americans have gone unbeaten in their past 5 games, including wins over Paraguay and Australia. Now, next year, they'll face those 2 teams again in the group stage of the World Cup. Here's U.S. midfielder Tyler Adams.
I think it's exciting to be familiar with the opponents that we're going to play against, but I think everyone knows that nothing is like a World Cup game.
The Americans' third group stage opponent will be determined by a miniature playoff held next March. It could be Turkey, Slovakia, Romania, or Kosovo. Overall, that's a very favorable draw. Plus, playing at home is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, says American star Christian Pulisic.
It's what we dreamed of as kids, and just to have the opportunity, I think it is important to go into it with the mentality that we're gonna enjoy it. We're gonna try to take in the whole experience, but obviously we're gonna be ready to fight. We're gonna give it everything we have.
The favorites to win the World Cup are heavyweights like Spain, England, France, Brazil, and Argentina, but it'll be easier than ever to at least reach the knockout stage thanks to the expansion of the tournament. Now the top 2 teams from each of the 12 groups will move on, plus a bunch of third-place finishers. That could lead to some Cinderella runs. Here's Australian head coach Tony Popovich speaking to reporters in a noisy room after the draw.
When you're in the knockout stages, then it's a one-off game and you never know what can happen. We'll have to earn it, but if we can get through the knockout stages, then anything's possible.
One of those underdogs next year will be Haiti, which is making just its second ever World Cup appearance. Head coach Sebastien Mignet led his squad to qualification despite not being able to play any games at home due to violence there. Now, there's another obstacle. Haitians have been banned from traveling into the U.S. since an executive order signed by President Trump last June, meaning it'll be impossible for some fans to come.
Normally, it's a big party, the World Cup, so you need to invite all the citizens in the world. I think it will be the case, but we have a lot of Haitian in U.S., so we will see.
For fans from many other countries, the U.S. requires visas to visit, and the wait for an appointment can be months long. Last month, the White House announced priority appointments for hopeful visitors who've purchased tickets through FIFA, but officials stressed it's not a guarantee that they'll be granted a visa. Becky Sullivan, NPR News, Washington.
With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this legal breaking reporting and video analysis update for the morning of Saturday, December 6th, 2025. If you did enjoy this legal breaking reporting video analysis update, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy for more legal breaking news that you need to know about. Firstly, before we end the reporting, ladies and gentlemen, as I said in the first half of the video and reporting, I recommend that you guys not take any advice from this panel in the CDC, or excuse me, at the CDC that RFK Jr. is the Secretary of Health at. Here's why. Because that puts you guys at danger, that puts me at danger, that puts babies at danger. So I would recommend you guys, for your safety, my safety, everybody in the whole world's safety, especially babies, to get vaccinated despite this corrupt government and despite the drunk and the pill-popping moron RFK Jr. That is going to do it for this legal breaking reporting video analysis update, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you in about an hour for our second breaking reporting and legal analysis update for the morning of Saturday, December 6th, 2025.